Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to be here today. My name's Katie, and this is Nicole, and this is Suzette Hammond. And
Hi, Suzette.
she's our special guest today. She is founder of Being Tea, and you can find her website, beingtea.com. She's based here in Chicago, and she's a tea educator and a yogi and a meditation teacher and all the really wonderful things that we love. And we're really excited. We've partnered with Suzette to bring some really cool offerings to your office, one of which is a tea meditation practice. So this is something that we realize works pretty well in the corporate space, and there are a lot of benefits. So what we're going to do today, we're going to kind of learn a little bit about what tea meditation is, and then we're actually going to do one. Suzette's going to lead us through a meditation. So if you guys are sitting at your desks, you can have a cup of tea with you. You can also just kind of watch and learn. We got a lot of really cool, interesting things set up that Suzette's going to talk us through. Yeah, we should get started.
Great. So if you're like me, you're used to just getting a tea bag and putting it in some hot water, and that's your story with tea. So I want Suzette to tell us about how you got started with tea. How did you learn about all these different kinds of teas and ways of making tea?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about my work. So I've worked in tea for 16 years now, and a large part of my work is teaching people very technical aspects of tea. So how it's made, where it comes from, how to brew and serve it, working in restaurants, cafes, different projects, field work, things like that. And something I've realized over the years, it's a really big component of tea, is the cultural side of tea. So how it was presented traditionally, how it's been used in meditation. Tea is a really, really important part of that. So I found that really fascinating. It aligned a lot with what I do with yoga. And so pairing tea and meditation together as a separate practice was really fascinating for me. And I like working both sides of the brain, you know, so the sensory exploratory side and then the going inward inside.
And you are in a teacher training to do yoga, to teach yoga, and you've done yoga for a long time.
Yeah. I practiced yoga for, I think I started practicing yoga around 2008, 2007.
Yeah.
So a long time.
Nice.
Awesome. So then how does this practice, this tea meditation practice, kind of show up in your life in a personal way? How have you woven it into your life?
So part of the personal study I've done with tea, I've practiced tea ceremony. So tea ceremony from a Japanese tradition, as well as Korean tradition and Chinese. Cool. So each of those focus on how you prepare the tea, how you serve it, how you interact with guests. And it's this wonderful living meditation of how you interact in your environment with other people. And that was really meaningful to me. So it's really impacted all of my teaching, even if it's a technical sensory evaluation class. It's still from a perspective of being mindful, being present, being calm. I think it helps with making you more aware of your reactions to things. So I'm a lot more patient and calm than I was in my previous life. I was a journalist. I was a news producer.
Oh, wow.
Which is really super stressful, super loud, super busy. And even then I was drinking tea as a way of just centering before a show and being calm. And it wasn't obviously until getting into 2 years later that I realized, wow, there's really something to this.
I think we teach people to do everything mindfully. You can brush your teeth mindfully, you can make your coffee mindfully. And tea is just such a lovely experience because there's the colors, there's the smells, there's the temperature, there's a lot to pick up on. So I hope you guys start to notice that as we go through our tea meditation today.
And that's why I brought some of these just as examples of some of the colors that you see in tea.
These cups, they're so beautiful.
Like when we do tasting classes, we always have lots of different teas, and you can see different colors, learn how to prepare them properly, learn how they taste different, and really find what works for you and your practice, your time of day, whether it's just tea for casual drinking or it's tea for a meditation practice.
Okay. Cool. And before we get started with our preparing and drinking of the tea, can you just list a couple benefits that come with drinking tea or making tea?
Yeah, so using tea specifically in meditation can be really helpful if you're one of those folks that meditation is hard for you for any reason. Like if it's stiff sitting that way, it's hard to focus. You want something to guide you. It's really great for that because it's a physical sensory guide, and we'll experience that while we're doing our meditation. You're watching the leaves unfold. You're taking in aromas, you're noticing colors, you're noticing how you feel as you are drinking something. You're noticing how your body and your mind react to that. So anything that we can do that gets us more in touch with our bodies helps to slow down reactions, helps us to become more aware of our reactions. And that in itself is a living moment-to-moment meditation. So tea helps us in a very physical, sensory way. It also helps us in kind of a more biochemical way. There are things in different teas that help with brain chemistry, that help with actually getting into relaxing states of mind, actually calming down the nervous system. So it really is a very powerful tool to work with in a meditation practice.
Nutritional benefits, and then also like just process benefits.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So we're going to go through a tea meditation. We have the whole setup. Like I said, if you don't, that's fine. You don't need anything special. You can even just make a cup of hot water and drink that if you want to get the sensory experience. Use what you learn here and then take it home with you.
Good.
Okay.
Right,
let's do it.
So if you have a cup of tea with you at your desk right now, you could use loose leaf, you could use tea bags. Honestly, it's totally okay. Really, I'll kind of explain a little bit about some of this. So these little cups that we have these little bowls. If you have like a round kind of coffee mug, that's good too, like a cappuccino cup or something. So something that's round just feels really nice to hold. It feels really centering. It feels really, like you're coming in your own. So even if you have something with, these don't have handles, but if you do have something with a handle, practice, see what that feels like to not use the handle and just hold it. It really is a very centering, very grounding and reassuring experience. So something that feels good to hold is nice. And you'll notice that each of us have like a little placemat or a little board underneath. So you could use whatever you like. This is sort of, think of this like your yoga mat, but for tea. It's helping to, it gives us space for the practice. And when I spent many years working in different offices too, I always had a space carved out for tea on my desk. So this was the mat where it goes. This is the cup. If I had an outlet near my computer, I had like a place where I could plug in a kettle. So I had this little nook carved out of peacefulness on my desk where I went. Yeah. So find a way to make a little space for you, for your tea at your desk. And just first notice how you're sitting. So, just sitting up in a comfortable way that's tall, both feet flat on the ground. So if you have your ankles crossed, your legs crossed, just put both feet on the floor so we can be extra grounded. And have your tea and your placemat, if you have one, just directly in front of you, nice and centered. So it's a way of expressing with your body full attention to the tea. And so what we're going to do is something I would teach you in class on using loose leaf tea for this. So if you have a tea bag, please use that. That's fine too. But with loose leaf tea, what we're going to do is just take a little pinch of tea leaves and place them in the bottom of our cup.
So I'm hearing some sounds. You get to tactile. You get to focus on one thing.
Sounds,
this is so good for people who it's hard to just sit in silence. This is really lovely.
So this is an oolong tea we're working with, and we'll get into more about that later in another class. But oolong tea is really aromatic. It's great for breath work and feeling very soothed. So if your nerves are rattled, you want something that's really aromatic and kind of floral and fruity, and it's just a nice tea. So at first it can seem a little strange to just have leaves in a cup. If you're a tea drinker, you're used to maybe putting something in a teapot and you take out a strainer or something. But so what's going to happen is we're going to add some hot water, and over the course of, we'll do maybe like a 10-minute meditation, and I'll guide you guys through that. The leaves are going to start to soak up water, and they'll start to sink to the bottom of the bowl. And so there's this nice visual unfolding that happens as you're watching the tea and you're watching the leaves release flavor. And it gives a lot of much more noticeable aroma when the tea is in the cup like this. So a cup of tea with the leaves strained out like this has some aroma, but not as much as when you're up close to the tea leaves. So this is another very direct sensory interaction of having it in this way. So you can pick it up and you can smell it while it's steeping and it's infusing. And as something that Katie so wonderfully pointed out when we had a practice session a while ago, it actually slows down how quickly you can drink the tea because you're interacting with these leaves in the cup. And so you can't just chug it, throw it back mindlessly and be like, I'm done, I've caffeinated. It really gives you pause. It's a physical thing that is getting you to slow down, which is really helpful.
We all need that.
Yep, you definitely all need that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add some water. So if you have water at your desk, maybe just add enough that feels like an amount you'd want to drink now, just whatever you would consider a cup of tea to have right now. And when we're pouring water, we encourage using 2 hands. It's another way of being very centered. You know, when you're using 1 hand for something, you're kind of leaving the door open for distraction and for wandering away. And when if you're working with a tea bag, you may notice just even right away some color releasing, the color changing in the liquid there. If you look really closely at your tea bag, even like if you have one of those meshy ones, you might see leaves expanding. So you're still getting a little bit of the visual, even if you're using tea bags. And so what we do these first few moments while it's steeping is, if possible, we bring both hands to the bowl or close to it. It might be a little too hot to hold right away, but it's allowing some warmth to seep into the tired muscles that spend so much time at the computer. Right? It's like a nice little warmth massage for your hands. And this is a way of helping us come into focus, helping us pay attention to the tea in front of us. We just spend some time observing. Just noticing how the leaves are changing as they're steeping, the color of the water. And you can start to take in some aromas. So if the cup is able to be held, you can pick it up and hold it like that underneath your nose. Or you could bring yourself down to it. So maybe placing both hands on the desk and then just lowering.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So if your hands are not on the cup, I'd recommend having them just on the desk next to you. Same way that like your feet are flat on the floor, having your hands just really calm and just, you're really just physically expressing being here with a nice cup of tea.
Not
really
texting.
Sitting, not texting. Not finding something else for busy fingers
Even
to
just
do.
like fidgeting, you know, like this
Yeah.
is a good, nice action.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah. It's kind of like the equivalent of when you're standing in mountain pose, right? It's just feet are flat on the floor.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Right. And whenever it feels comfortable to hold the tea, you can pick it up and just smell. And when we're smelling, this might be really different than maybe if you've done tastings like cheese tasting or wine tasting or something. The analytical brain kicks in. You really want to investigate. You want to know, what is that smell? Why does it taste like that, right? This is really, we're just breathing it. So just inhale through the nose, exhaling through the nose, just your normal relaxed breath. And what you're doing is you're showing trust. You're showing that you trust the tea. You're open to experience. And you can put the tea down either on your mat, or you can also hold it. You know, it feels really nice to just hold it with 2 hands, kind of this little position right near the heart center here. It can be really soothing and comforting. And again, it's just allowing the analytical brain to be still for a little bit and just be more trusting, be more open. Now, our sense of smell is connected to our sense of memory and emotion in the brain. So when we're smelling something, sometimes some things come up. You're reminded of a place or a time. That's another really powerful way that working with tea and meditation can be very soothing and very helpful. So if you notice something about your tea today, just observe that, you know, maybe not really thinking about it and trying to tell yourself a story, a narrative in your head, but just noticing that this something comes up for you and acknowledging that.
Those of you who can't see, these leaves are really spreading out. I'll just give you a little audio. It's really cool to just watch. I think we never do this in our daily life. So just watching them spread out. Some are sinking, some are floating. There's different color hues. Initially, you look at the tea and it's like, oh, it's greenish brown, but it's really getting vibrant.
And I'm noticing some are starting to sink and some are starting to kind of float and hang in the water. And there's some interesting shadows that is happening on the bottom of the cup from the light, and it's really beautiful.
There's also a little sparkle on the surface too,
Yeah,
like when you're looking at a lake.
Yes.
You notice that as you continue to breathe with it, your breath softens. There's like this warmth
Yeah.
that's here and it really starts to go down. So you're shifting from that kind of investigating, sniffing sort of breath to just natural breath as you're going. Whenever it feels like it's a good temperature to take a sip and you see like a little point of surface there where you can get a sip, just go ahead and take a sip of the tea. And then just noticing how it feels to simply drink tea. Feeling like there's nice warmth in the back of the throat. There's a sensation of warmth in the mouth. And as you take a few sips of tea, just notice how it feels all the way down. This kind of warmth and relaxation that comes with that.
Yeah, it is a really nice sensory experience. You can feel the heat sort of starting in the mouth and going all the way down into the body. And it's really gentle and soothing.
And when you take a sip of the tea, so on your exhale after you swallow the sip, exhale through your nose, mouth closed, just, and notice that you can smell it the same as you when you're doing that. So we spend a lot of the time in the first part of the practice taking in, we're smelling in and we're settling in. And then when we exhale out, we're bringing that kind of full circle.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the breath feels warmer.
Which is immediately relaxing the back of the throat.
I mean, we all know we grab a cup of tea when we're sick or like right before bed. So we know there's these healing properties. It's just really cool to just sit and really feel them molecule by molecule.
Yeah, and different teas will feel differently throughout different times of year, depending on your own needs and what you're feeling like that day. And so that's another really interesting part of the practice is why you choose the teas that you do.
Okay.
And just getting to know yourself a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So now my tea leaves are kind of like, they look kind of puffy. The color is quite different from when we started. It's kind of almost like a sagey green. Most of them are at the bottom. And there's a really nice color to the liquid now. Beautiful.
So as far as how much time this might take normally, so from the point that you add hot water to a cup of tea, it's usually about 10 minutes for it to cool completely. And as you're doing your breath work, for it to be a point where it's drinkable and you can slowly start to sip the tea. So this is a great way of carving out like a little space of time in the day. If you can spare just 10 minutes of time to sit and have a cup of tea mindfully, doing the breath work to begin with, and then slowly drinking the tea. And at the end, when all the tea is gone, you can add more hot water. You know, that's an important part of tea culture is reinfusing the tea leaves because they change and the flavor evolves with every steeping. So it's not like coffee grounds where you just brew it once and throw it away. Reinfuse your tea. You might learn something on the second steep. So, or you could simply leave your tea in its cup and have tea later in the afternoon if you want. It's okay to just leave it and let it sit. Yeah, you can just let it sit out and it's okay. Have more tea later.
That happens to me unintentionally a lot and make a pot of tea. And
it's okay. Just add more later.
Put it in the fridge for the next day.
Wow, that swallow and then exhalation is like
that's
big takeaway for me. Yeah, it feels really good.
And on another exhalation after that, you can maybe practice sending that energy down, you know, through all the way through the core of the body. So to the chair that you're sitting in, all the way down to your feet, really feeling that grounding energy all the way down.
And I think you said last time, like slurping is part of the process too. So feeling that, hearing that, it's not a gross thing. It's part of the process.
Yeah, slurping is actually what helps us to be able to taste better because it's activating all those taste buds. It's also making it so that you're taking in breath at the same time that you're swallowing. So kind of that effect we have when we exhale through the nose, you still are getting a sense of taste and aroma. It's because we have sensory receptors all the way in the back of the throat too, as well as just here. So when you slurp and then when you exhale through your nose like that, you're really engaging all of your sense of smell, which is really a key part in the process.
It's kind of like when you're tasting wine, you want to aerate it first, and you do kind of do that slurping sometimes when you're tasting wine. Do one more sip here.
I think one of my favorite takeaways is just the centering aspect. We're so used to grabbing a cup on the go, like to-go cups or with the handle and just kind of doing something else while we're doing this. This is a chance for you just to do one thing at a time,
Yeah.
stop fidgeting, and feel so good. The warmth, especially on a day like today, it's raining here in Chicago. Using all the senses. This is a big part of what we teach, and so we're so thrilled to have you on board, and we really hope our clients can benefit from this. It's just a lovely event you could do for your employees, or even a small group of people if you want to set this up together. It's so lovely. It's so fun.
That's such a great point about a skill that is learned from this. A direct skill is to do one thing at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, when you practice traditional tea ceremony, that's a part of it, is learning to do one thing at a time and not allow yourself to be distracted. And you really do take that into all of your, like, you notice if you're cooking something and you're trying to do a million different things and you're on your phone while you're doing it, and you're like, one thing at a time, right? And so this teaches you the physical posture of what is it like to just do one thing at a time, and realizing you have so much more time than you think you do.
Yep.
You really do. So when everything stops getting so muddled and jumbled up, you really have a lot more time.
Yeah. The gift of time.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that and were able to follow along a little bit. I wish you could see this. You guys are going to have to bring us in. We'd love to show you this. Yeah, see if Nicole can kind of show you.
Oh, yay.
Yay, that's good. Excellent. So all of these little teas here, this is kind of what it would look like in your office. And Suzette is amazingly mobile with this stuff. So she's got
everything to you.
Everything is brought to you, including the tea and the tasting and obviously the knowledge and the wisdom. And we can tailor this in a variety of different ways to make it have it make sense for your group and your office culture.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions before we wrap this up?
Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy. Good.
Oh,
thank you.
It's so fun to see. I'm so
Connor.
glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll stick around for questions. We'll finish our tea. Please just take the next couple of minutes to just center yourselves, drink your tea or your water or your coffee. We're not saying coffee is bad. It's not. Drink your coffee mindfully too.
I drink coffee.
I know you're going to get one at 3 p.m.
Excellent. Everybody have a really great rest of your day. As always, we're going to post this and the follow-up to watch on demand with all of the other classes that we've been doing. And hopefully I will see you guys next Thursday, same time. We're going to be doing some desk and chair yoga. So I hope to see you then. Okay.
Yay.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
I just love this. The temperature is changing.
It really is. It kind of cooled off pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah, these open bowls really help with that. It doesn't stay hot really all that
No.
long. Like 10 minutes is just a perfect amount of time.
Yeah. Good.
10 minutes is the perfect time for meditation. I think the whole setup works so well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Love it.
All right.